What's good, y'all? High Vibe Tribe, what's good with y'all? Make everything be great. Y'all always on time, y'all ain't never late. For these exclusive, eccentric, and electric broadcasts, aka Godcast, because this is not the average podcast. All right. Y'all are now multidimensionally tuned in. All right, to another episode of the Go With The Flow show. I'm your host, Flow Like Water. All right. So, real quick, I just went on a little mini micro run. I just want y'all to tune in for a little story time. I want to tell y'all about a time where I found myself due to methamphetamine, where I found myself unhinged. Because I talk about, and y'all gonna hear me talk about it more, but so far I've talked about how, due to the fact that I use methamphetamine like a, um, like a prescription drug, kind of like Adderall, and the way I used it, it helped me, open up portals to my higher self, and I know people might think like, damn, how the fuck you do that? Because you ain't never heard nobody say nothing like that. Like you ain't never heard nobody come out and talk about meth the way that I do, So, I transmuted it. I transmuted that raw, destructive energy, and I transmuted it into creative and meditative energy. When I started doing meth, I started meditating. I started doing breath work. You know, I started I started connecting with nature more. I started learning about a lot of practices, that I started ultimately engaging in. I started learning about crystals. I started educating myself on, things that was hidden from things that are still hidden from the general public, to keep you from becoming your best self, to keep you from really just knowing the truth about the nature of reality that we live in, and so yeah, like I didn't go into it like when I first started doing meth. I didn't know that it was gonna turn out the way it did. I didn't know I was gonna end up, you know, engaged. I didn't know I was gonna end up eventually doing breath work and meditating. I didn't know I was gonna, you know, start connecting with nature and hugging trees. And I didn't know I was gonna get into crystals. I didn't see any of that coming. But I'm grateful that I did learn about, chakras. I learned about yoga, you know, um, and disclaimer. With that being said, I'm not encouraging nobody to go out and do meth. I'm not encouraging nobody to go and try to do what I did, because what worked for me, it's not gonna work for everybody else. I just so happen to ironically connect with my higher self. I wasn't just high. I really was, tapping in and connecting, to my higher self. I was, throughout the midst of addiction. In the midst of addiction, I was still connected to the Most High. You know, uh, and I was still connected to my intuition. And my intuition always told me whenever I needed to stop. You know, I went cold turkey over a lot off meth over the last 4 to 5 years. The 4 to 5 years that I was doing it, I went cold turkey a lot. Whether it was 3 days or just 3 months, or whether it was 3 months or just 3 days, I always listened to my intuition when it was telling me, okay, enough is enough. The average person isn't connected to their intuition, so they just keep doing more and more and more and more, and they spiral out of control. You feel me? And you know, I just want y'all to understand, I'm not glorifying the fact that I was doing meth, and I'm not glorifying the fact that I ironically had a spiritual awakening while in meth addiction. I'm glorifying the fact that, you know, throughout that period of time, I was still able to spiritually evolve, you know, regardless of being addicted to methamphetamine. All the while being addicted to methamphetamine, I didn't, it didn't destroy me like it does the average person, you know. And it's not the meth that I'm glorifying or encouraging. It's the practices that help me, that I end up engaging in, that help me overcome the meth addiction that I'm so passionate about, that I want to share with the world, that I want to, encourage people to try, especially those of y'all out there that's still in active addiction, or for those of y'all that that already are recovering from, you know, being addicted to hard drugs like methamphetamine. You know, I encourage all of you to, start becoming consciously aware of your breath, because it's the breath. It's becoming aware of my breathing that's what saved me. It's one of the many things that saved me, but that's like the basis. Like that covers everything. Spirit translates to breath. So when you have a spiritual awakening, it's just the awakening. You're awakening your consciousness through breathing. Practice. Do by doing breathing exercises. By becoming consciously aware throughout your whole entire day, on a day to day, from moment to moment, being conscious of how you breathing. Because when you breathing, you're not just breathing in air. It's consciousness all around us. It's ether all around us. That's what you breathing in. So the more you do that, the more you evolve your consciousness. You know. So the more you awaken to who you truly are, to your true nature. You feel me? And like, I'm gonna talk about a lot of things that meth actually helped me with. Like, for example, meth helped me fast. Now, like I say, going into meth, I didn't really know nothing about spirituality. I didn't, when I first started doing meth, I didn't know nothing about crystals. I ain't know nothing about nothing. I ain't know nothing about meditation. I ain't know nothing about being a chosen one. I ain't know nothing about yoga. I didn't know nothing about nature. You know what I'm saying? But what was so divine about it was I started coming across all of these things. Like, these information about all these things just started to cross my path, divinely. You feel me? And I was, and these things resonated with my soul. You feel me? The average person would have, because of the indoctrination of religion, they would have been scared to lean into crystals, lean into chakras and astrology and numerology. But I leaned into these things because I had already been done with religion. Years prior, I had been let go of religion. So it was, like I say, these things started to just make sense with my soul. Like, damn, this is what's been hidden from us, because religion didn't resonate with me, you know. But like I say, I started to fast, and before meth, I didn't know that I could fast on my own, So it was one of the reasons why I really justified the use of it for as long as I did, because I say, okay, it helped me fast, So it's kind of like I might have been doing something wrong, which is really no such thing as right or wrong. But if you want to go there, I might have been doing something wrong that technically, you're not supposed to do, but I was doing it for the right reasons, though. I kind of used it like a tool. Like I say, I used that raw destructive energy that it gives you, and I transmuted it. I transmuted it. And but this is not one of them videos where I talk about ways in which it helped me. I want to talk about. I want to tell y'all a story. I want to tell y'all a story. You know, about one of the times that I noticed that it was breaking me down psychologically. Because I say that in one of my recent videos, I said that meth is not like how they portray it to be in the movies, documentaries, TV shows. And I know that firsthand from experience. But the story I'm about to tell y'all, I realized yesterday when I was going over it and processing it in my mind, I was like, damn, I could have been the stereotypical meth user as a result of this situation I was in. I could have been that, you know, because I know y'all may see people on documentaries, you know, people that use meth. Like I know y'all may see. I remember me seeing a documentary a while back when I was in middle school. You know, I was in health class, and the health teacher put on a documentary about drugs, and I remember seeing some meth users, like they was like hallucinating, like it was like an audio. It was like an audio. It was like a recording of meth users that they had got on, because they had called 911. They had got it on. They had recorded the whole conversation, and they called 911, and they were saying how somebody was chasing after them, and they was like running down the street, and you know saying people was chasing them and people was after them, and I could have found myself in a situation like that, you know. And you got to think about it. This is also like, this is the result of prolonged meth use over an extended period of time. This is not like initially, like the first day you get high. You're not gonna be running away from people and hallucinating and thinking little green men chasing you and shit like that. That's not how meth. That's not how meth is when you first start using it. I gotta debunk this shit for those of y'all that don't know. It's not like that. It's pretty much blissful. Like, it's blissful. It's ecstatic. Uh, and it might have just been me. It's different strokes for different folks, but for me, it wasn't like that. I wasn't so paranoid. Like, I wasn't as paranoid as initially as the average meth user is. And if you ask me, the average meth user, when you first start doing meth, I don't think any of us are paranoid right off the bat. But like I say, prolonged usage of it can put you in a very paranoid states where you think somebody is after you and people are always watching you and shit like that. Because I did experience that. I did experience that, and this is one of them times I want to talk to y'all about. So y'all can, because like I say, I talk about all the time how it helped me, but I want to give y'all the flip side, and I want to, I gotta talk about, the times that, like I say, I found myself unhinged because I wasn't always so well put together. Like, I handled myself well, but this was one of those times where I was unraveling, you know. Um, yeah, so I gotta keep the duality. I don't just want y'all to think that, oh well, it was just all fun and games, sunshine and rainbows, peaches and cream when I was in addiction, because it wasn't. I had times where I had the good times and the bad times. You feel me? And I gotta talk to y'all about this bad time I had. So I found myself, you know, in a certain location, around individuals that I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have even been involved with these individuals. And this was actually one of the times when I went cold turkey on meth. I wasn't even high this day. This day, I wasn't even high. I was sober. But it was 2 years in. It was 2 years into my addiction. So the drug had already took its toll on my psyche. So even though I wasn't high this day, the effects that it has on me psychologically, you know, was still undergoing. You feel me? Even though I wasn't even high, even though I was sober. You feel me? It was like the damage had already been done, you know. So uh I was with these individuals and associates of mine. I was at an associate's house, and somebody I used to get high with. And she went to work, and I was with some individuals that she knew. It was two individuals that she knew and that I had just met, and it was just us there. While my homegirl, well, my former homegirl, while she was at work, me and these three individuals who was hanging out at her crib. You feel me? While she was at work, and soon after they left, soon after she left for work, uh, somebody came over and picked those other two individuals up and took them somewhere. So I would have went with them, but something told me to just stay and chill out by myself, you know. And so I was there for like 30 minutes alone by myself. But right after they left, y'all, this is where it get, this is where it get interesting. Right after they left, I hear police sirens. Now, this is one of them times where, you know, like there were times where I had profound moments of mental clarity. There were times where I was even experiencing like synchronicities, aha moments, and things of that nature. You know, there were times when I seen signs from the universe, and I just automatically knew there was divine signs. And sirens came to be a divine sign. Whenever I hear sirens off in the background, it's a sign of the divine. It's to me. And I know for a lot of people, when you hear sirens, car horns honking, motorcycle engines off in the background, things of that nature are good signs. It's like, whatever lines of thought that you're thinking about, or whatever, you know you might be saying at the time, or you might be listening to something at the time, or you might see an angel number right in that moment when you hear the sirens. Things like that, synchronicity. you know uh but this day my mind played tricks on me, because the sirens turned into something that, it was where my mind was working against me. And I was paranoid. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all can see where I'm going with this. I'm thinking, you know when the sirens went off, at first I'm just thinking like, okay, they just responded to a call. But then it's, sounded like the sirens was closing in, and as they was getting louder, my mind was telling me that they was closing in on me, getting ready to come, kick the door in and raid the house that I was in. And I'm just thinking like, well, why the fuck would they do that? It ain't no drugs in the house. I ain't got no drugs. There ain't no weapons here. Why would they do that? It's my logical mind, trying to override my fucking meth addict mind, And my meth addict mind was overpowering at this time. You feel me? Because it was like, nah, nigga, they set you up. Like, nah, nigga, they set you up. They set you up. They planted some drugs. They planted some shit. And now they called the police and told the police to go keep the door in to set you up and get you, you know what I'm saying? Get you locked up. So my logical mind still trying to override my meth addict mind. Like, nah, bro, hell nah. No fucking way. I'm tweaking. I'm tripping. So the sirens was getting louder, right? But then they would fade away, like they was going away from me. But then they would get louder, like they was coming back, closing in on me. And it would seem like every time my logical mind was trying to override my meth addict mind, they would fade away. But then when my meth addict mind was kicking in and overpowering, like, nah, nigga, they set you up, they coming to get you, it would seem like in them moments the sirens would get louder. So I'm literally like in my head, like, this is psychological fucking warfare. Like, my own mind, like, I can't even trust my own mind at this point. You feel me? Because my logical, sober mind, because like I say, I wasn't even high, was telling me, bro, chill out, you tweaking. But then my meth addict mind, the damage, like I said, the damage had already been done. I'm fucking paranoid. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but I stayed calm. This is where all my breathwork practices came in at, because I stayed calm. I didn't overreact. I didn't act impulsively. I didn't panic. I sat there. I pretty much sat in one spot the whole time. Like the average meth addict, bro, they would have been flipping out, going batshit. They would have been all over the fucking place, flipping and kicking and turning. You know what I'm saying? I stayed calm. You know, I pretty much, like I say, I sat in this chair. I was sitting in this chair the whole entire time while all of this is going on in my mind. I'm sitting down in one spot. you know. Uh, so, and like I said, this is why I say I could have turned into the stereotypical meth addict or meth user, because I could have been, if it wasn't for me being anchored in my breath, you know, and grounded in my spiritual practices, I would have been just like those users that was in that documentary I watched. I could have been running down the fucking road thinking motherfuckers after me, thinking motherfuckers chasing me, thinking motherfuckers had to get me. You know what I'm saying? And as a result, somebody would have seen me fucking tweaking the fuck out and called the police, and I would have probably ended up locked up. You know what I'm saying? Or hiding in some fucking bushes or something. You know what I'm saying? So this is one of them times where I want y'all to see how, because like I say, I talk about all the time how meth helped me, but I gotta flip the coin and show y'all what was on the other side of it. Because it wasn't always, in some ways it was my friend, but it wasn't always, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't always that. Uh, I tell y'all times about, I've told y'all times about how it worked in my favor, but this was one of them times where it could have fucking had me really, you know what I'm saying? Like I say, that like the stereotypical meth user. You feel me? But so yeah, that's where that could have went. But like I say, I stayed calm. And this was like going on for 10 minutes, y'all. Like the sirens was getting louder and it was fading away and getting louder and fading away for like 10 minutes. This was the longest 10 minutes of my fucking life. You feel me? Um, I found myself questioning everything. Like, damn, I should have been fucking with these. You know what I'm saying? I found myself thinking them thoughts. Like, damn, I shouldn't have been fucking with these folks, man. I shouldn't have been involved with these individuals. Like, why the fuck I come here? Like, damn, like, what am I gonna do? Like, you know, and even though I wasn't even high, I was like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, damn, I'm done with this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, them was the thoughts that was going through my mind. Like, bro, I'm done with this shit. Fuck this shit. I'm never getting high again. If this, bro, like, nah, this shit is over with. Like, I don't even want to fool with this shit no more. It was, them kind of thoughts was arising. And I start telling myself that, like, man, whatever, however this situation turned out, I'm not fucking with this shit no more. You know, that's where I was at with it. Bro, it had me like, and I'm thinking like, man, like, cause I had my crystals on and everything. I had some crystals on. And the whole time I'm thinking, man, like, am I overstimulated? Like, is it the crystals? Like, I couldn't even trust the crystals. Y'all. When this whole situation was over, bro, I went outside. I think I had every crystal that I had on me that day. I think I went outside and I threw all them. I think I threw them all away. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this shit. Like this is where this is how meth deteriorated my mind. Like, because I had I ain't even want to like I mean I ain't want to you know stop messing with crystals completely, but in that moment I was like, if I didn't even know if I could trust my own mind. I didn't know if I could trust the crystals. You know what I'm saying? Uh, yeah. So I was really at a this is what that conflict, that mental conflict was like. You know, I just wanted to be done with everything. You know, and at some point, to make a long story short, y'all, like at some point, I found myself just accepting it. I was sitting in that chair, right? I was sitting in that chair, and I found myself just accepting what was gonna happen. Because, like I say, my logical mind was telling me, "Man, you good. Ain't nobody after you. The police ain't gonna come kick the door in and raid the house and take you to jail." You know what I'm saying? But my meth addict mind was like, "Yes, nigga, they coming, they outside right now." You know what I'm saying? They outside right now, my nigga. Like, and at some point, I just found myself accepting it. I was like, you know what? I'm cool. If they coming, they coming. I just sat there. I was like, if they coming, they coming. Come on with it. You know what I'm saying? I just accepted it. I surrendered. This is where the act of surrender come in at. And like I say, I could have been tweaking the fuck out. I could have, and it seemed like, bro, they was right the fuck outside. It could have just been in my head. it could have just been in my head, y'all. The whole time it could have just been in my head, but it seemed like they were right the fuck outside waiting on me to open the door and take off running. You know, like on one end of the spectrum, it could have really been that. Like it could have like really been some shit like, the police was in on it, like knowing I'm high. The individuals that I was messing with, they could have been the police. They could have been working with the police whole time. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Trying to make me go crazy. You feel me? And it might sound like I'm crazy right now, but this shit ain't really that far fetched. It could have been that. But like I say, it could have been in my head too. It could have just all been in my head, you know. But like I say, I found myself in a moment of stillness and surrender, and I just accepted it. Like they gonna come. Like I say, I ain't panic. I ain't overreact. I said if they gonna come, they gonna come. And everything turned out to be okay. Everything turned out to be okay. The individuals I was with ended up coming back, and yeah, that's how that went. You know, uh, I could have still got high that night. I could have still got high that night because I'm pretty sure they had some drugs. But I after the situation that I had just got done being in my mind, I'm like, hell no, fuck this shit, hell no, fuck that. You know, I was done with it, y'all. And I just sat up and watched them tweak. I sat up and watched them tweak and shit, and and I stayed sober the rest of the night. You know, and where I was at with it, I was like, man, if I do end up getting high again, I'm not finna fucking get high with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go by myself. I'm gonna get high by myself. You know, if I am gonna do it again, but like I say, this one of them times where I was done with it. I was like, nah, like if this is what this shit is gonna be like, I don't want nothing to do with it anymore. You feel me? So yeah, that situation was like I say, it was the longest 10 minutes of my life, man. Cause I could have ended up, like I say, like the stereotypical meth user. I could have been just like those users that I was watching in that documentary. I could have been just like that. Like the average person, like not being anchored in their breath and their spiritual practices, meditation and shit like that. They would have panicked. They would have overreacted. They would have been in fight or flight mode. Fight or flight would have completely taken over. You know what I'm saying? Like even in that moment, I'm at this church, y'all. I'm at this playground in this church. I'm finna do some pull-ups. But even in this moment, if I was still in my addiction, bro, garbage truck just came to empty out the garbage, the big garbage can at the church right here off in the corner. And bro, if I was still in my addiction, that would have fucking, I would have been paranoid about this motherfucker, like thinking that they trying to come fuck up the, you know what I'm saying, fuck up the vibes of me making a video. You know what I'm saying? But I'm cool. You feel me? I'm cool. I know y'all can see like, nah, he ain't getting high no more. That would have made me tweak out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's the average person already, bro, being sober is in fight or flight, flight or y'all know what I mean. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Fight or fight or flight. The average person is always in a perpetual state of fight or flight. So being high is worse. It's 10 times fucking worse. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all, man. I had to, you know, because first of all, like I don't want to give the disclaimer. Like I mean, I do want to get it. I do want to give the disclaimer that, you know, meth didn't always help me because I'm always talk about, just like I have, here recently, in ways that it helped me. Uh, you know, but I gotta, it's only right that I talk about times where I was, you know, where I was really in a chaotic state of mind, you know, because that could have went a whole nother way. But like I say though, I'm gonna reiterate my practices, being grounded in my breath, being anchored in my breathing, staying calm in stressful situations. It's a gift. And if I hadn't learned that, I'm more than likely wouldn't be here making this video right now. If I hadn't learned everything I learned, you know, if I hadn't stayed up them long nights studying, you know, all the information I studied, if I hadn't, been conscious of my breathing anytime I was high, because the average meth user, you got to think about it, the average person without meth in the equation don't even pay attention to their breathing. You know what I'm saying? So when they get high, when you do a drug like meth, it raises your blood pressure and your heart rate. So uh pardon me, it raises your blood pressure and your heart rate. You know, so people, you know people tend to be really compulsive. And they they don't, it gets to the point where when you're doing things, you're not doing things mindfully with intention, slow, like it makes you move. This is why they call it speed, because it makes you move fucking too fucking fast. You know what I'm saying? That's why y'all see some people talk real fucking fast when they get high. You know, you can't even really have a conversation with somebody that's on meth, because they gonna try to fucking finish your, you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna even let you talk. You know what I'm saying? They gonna think that you fucking, they gonna think that they can finish your sentences. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so yeah, the average person don't take the time to slow down. They always on the go. So when they get on meth, it's worse. But me, what set me apart was that I started, even moments where I had just got high and I was sitting still and I would pay attention to my breath and I would see how fast my heart was beating. Even in moments like that, it like this is what make or break you, because in moments like that, I could have, went off and did some kind of impulsive action, but I let myself calm down though. And I didn't move right off the bat. I just didn't, move too quick, and I paid attention to my breathing and I took deep breaths. So most of my actions that I took was conscious. They was intentional. You know what I'm saying? Mindful. Everything was a meditation for me. You know what I'm saying? Cleaning up was a meditation. Sweeping the floor, mopping the floor. It was a meditation. Like the average person thoughts is riddled, like they mind is riddled with thoughts of fear and doubt and worry. But I started practicing meditation and breath work. So when I was high, I was, I found my moment. I found myself in moments of profound peace and just stillness where I had no thoughts, you know. So as a result, everything I did was like a meditation. Sweeping the floor was a meditation, mopping the floor, washing dishes, doing laundry, hand washing laundry, you know, like instead of, I had all these things, even writing and journaling, like I had all these things that I ultimately realized was portals to my higher self. Things that I can do and lose myself in, really find myself in. I really found myself in these things, but I lost all sense of time and space in these things, and to where I wasn't just going back compulsively doing more meth and using more meth. Instead, I had other things that I can engage myself in, you know, and a lot of times I got high from those things. So I didn't need to keep on going back, and you know what I'm saying? I got high from the information I was learning. I got high from you know, the the stimulation of just me, cleaning and cleansing my space, you know, or even just going outside and look up at the sky, when I was high. It was a whole, it just hit different, But like I say, I'm not trying to glorify the drug though, you know. Don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to glorify the drug, you know. I just got one of those rare cases, you know, and one of those unique, stories and testimonies, because, like I say, you know, the average person, bro, you know, completely destroys you, and deteriorates you. And it could have did me like that. But the reason that it didn't is because it was like the practices, the spiritual practices that I was engaging in was counteracting the damage that was being done by the meth. So it couldn't destroy me completely how it had the potential to, you know? Yeah. So I don't want to hold y'all too much longer, man, but I had to, you know what I'm saying? Hey, stay tuned, because I'm gonna tell y'all more stories like this. Uh, I just feel like I gotta share my experience, And it's profound, like, to share the good times that I had with it and the bad times that I had, But overall though, the moral of the story is that, man, I'm 6 months sober. I'm 6 months sober, and I don't see myself ever doing that shit again. I came out on the other side of this shit with my whole mind intact, my heart intact, my mind, body, and soul is aligned. You feel me? Like, I got to walk away with everything. Like, I got to walk away and come out on the other side of this shit as my higher self, you know. And I could have lost it. Like, I could have lost connection with my higher self if I had kept going. I could have lost I could have lost connection with my higher self in the most high in nature. You know what I'm saying? If I had kept going. But yeah, I'm still here though. I'm still here. And, you know, we're gonna keep it going, man. We're gonna keep it going because, you know, even right now in this moment, I got new things that I'm addicted to that, put me in a state of bliss, a natural state of bliss now. Tranquility, peace, you know. Like right now, making this video, you know, it's emotionally fulfilling, being able to tell my story, it's emotionally fulfilling, not having no shame and guilt around doing so. I don't care what nobody think about me, Uh, but yeah, I just want to encourage y'all, if you somebody out there that's struggling with addiction, whether you in active addiction right now or whether you are recovering, you might be somebody that's been, in recovery for like a year or two, but you still have those strong urges and cravings to go back and revert back to the bullshit. You know, you just gotta. It's all about, finding, those things that can put you in that natural high. You feel me? In that natural state of bliss and ecstasy. Breath work. You can do that. It's a lot of chemicals that get released in the brain that make you feel high. You know, and you can bypass the chemical high, and get that natural sense of high just by breathing, just by being in a state of relaxation. You know, just by being in the present moment, just being in stillness. Not having no thoughts about nothing. Not when you eliminate stress, doubt, and worry out of the equation. When you you know practice meditation, and you know eliminate all your worries, doubts, and fears that your mind is riddled with, the guilt, and the absence of guilt and shame, the absence of gluttony, lust, and jealousy and anger and envy. Man, all that shit bring a natural state of bliss and ecstasy when you take it out of the equation, you know. So that's all y'all got to do is do the healing. It's just all you got to do is heal from the things that you need to heal from. All you got to do is find things that you like to do, or that you love to do, rather, things that you love to do that put you in that tranquil state of mind. It can be working out, it can be doing yoga, breath work, exercising, doing cardio. It can be making videos, creating content, it could be writing, drawing, you know, coloring, painting, crafting, um, planting, gardening, you know, things of that nature, you know, cooking, you know, eating good foods, you know, stop putting bullshit into your body, you know. Yeah. Because you have, what it takes inside of you. You have the ancient technology that's inside of you, you know, to reach transcendental states of consciousness, you know, that make you feel that same ecstasy, that same bliss, that same relaxation, that same stillness, that same, you know, state of being high naturally. All you got to do is know how to create that portal. All you got to do is know what activities to engage in to create that portal till you get in there, to create that portal and step through it so you can get there and reach it, you know, so you can access it. You don't need drugs and unnatural substances to access it, you know. So that's the moral of the story. You feel me? That is the moral of the story, you know. And every time you have a craving to go back and, revert back to them old habits, breathe. Just breathe. You have to replace it with something, you know. You have to replace it with something. Breathe, do some push-ups, go out on a walk, read a book, you know, read a book, say some affirmations. What else? Stretch, you know, yeah. Go out and plug your bare feet into the grass. Go out and stare at the sun. Go sit in the sun, soak in the sun. That's all you got to do. Go and have some fun. Write, paint, draw. That's all you got to do. You know, and just that's all you got to do to get through the day. So you're not thinking about. The more you being productive like that, the less time and energy you have to like think about the past. And because when you had them cravings and urges, 9 times out of 10, it come from you having thoughts about getting high. You know what I'm saying? Cause I know, like a lot of y'all be feeling that nostalgia. Cause I've been feeling it a lot lately, like nostalgia around, me, you know, getting high in the past. So, you know, and although I had fun, I got to move forward, man. Although it may have been fun, we got to move forward, man. We got to move forward, man. You know. So with that being said, it's a lot more I want to say, but sometimes words can get in the way. So in the meantime, in between time, y'all be brilliant, be beautiful, be blissful, be bold. Let go of all the lies you was told, and watch everything you touch turn to gold. And I'll catch y'all on the next episode. For sure. Big Flow, signing off. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Go With The Flow Show. And yeah, I love you. Beautiful reflections. May you all have a beautiful day. Ashe. Namaste. Peace.